So, hello, welcome. I'm Mark Reay, and this is Honourable Mentions. Normally, Honourable Mentions is actually a podcast that I do, the concept of the show is that I want to meet and talk to interesting people who have really cool, interesting ideas about games in general and working in the games industry and stuff. Find out about the games that aren't necessarily the games that are the best, in the top 10 in their greatest games of all time, but the games that fall just outside that, because they're the ones that are the most interesting. Those grey areas. Why does it work? Why doesn't the game work? Was it just let down by poor marketing, so on and so forth? So my guests, a couple of guys have been dying to get on the show for forever. They'll tell you I've been handing them on emails for ever and a day. So my first guest has the honour of being my very first... I'm just talking to the mic, really. Bit nervous, do apologise. Has the honour of being my first game dev on the show. He is currently making the ambitious, wonderful MMO roguelike top-down shooter. He couldn't make up his mind what he wanted to make, I don't think. It's a top-down shooter called Lazarus as part of Spilt Milk Studios. I have the wonderful Mr. Andrew Smith.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. A round of applause. Brilliant. And also joining me, he says, switching cards very quickly. In fact, I've lost yours, Darren, so Darren Gargette from Cane Rinse. There we go. So, questions. The idea is that first question I always like to do is a getting to know you question. And there's a bit of a preamble to this one, so settle in. I started this podcast... I have as well. Cozy up, lads.
Bit of warning.
Hold hands if you want. You're more than welcome. So the first question, is basically, I started this podcast because I was getting very jaded, and I was getting to the stage where, unless a game was a 9 out of 10 or getting rave reviews, just didn't want to know. That was it. Like, I'd only play those. And then I thought back about, actually, do you know what? I used to always, when I was younger, when in Spectrum days and tapes, I would pick up tapes just based on the cover, or exchanging floppy disks in the playground with your friends on the Amiga and the Atari ST and that kind of thing. And I would take a chance on anything. And there would always be these lovely little hidden gems that would pop up. You go, I've never played a game like this, but now I'm playing it. I'm really enjoying it. So what I want to know from you guys is, what were the games that you played that you took a chance on and blew you away? Darren, I know you've got one.
Is that my honourable mention, or just in general?
Just in general, general games that you've taken a punt on when you were younger.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 35 now, so when I was younger, it's quite a wide spectrum of ages. But I took a punt, and believe it or not, on World of Warcraft. And I'd never played an MMO before. I had no idea what to expect, and I ended up completing every single quest in Kalimdor for the Horde. Every quest, to the point where you earned this tabard that said how much of a nerd you were. And I was like, brilliant, look at me running around as a cow with a vest on. Yeah, and it had the globe on it. And I'd never played an MMO before. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't understand why other people were running around. I didn't like why there was swearing going on in the bottom left corner, constant aggro in the corner. I didn't understand why I was cooking food and knitting cloth and doing blacksmithing. I just didn't get it. And
right.
I remember I put it away, and I was like, I don't get this game. I was at one of the towns.
Just overwhelming.
Just logged off, unsubscribed. And in the back of my head, it was like, no, I'm going to go back. And I don't know why I went back. But then what happened then was just like Wrath of the Lich King came out. And I'd never been so... I think I was addicted to that game.
Right, okay.
And I know it's not a hidden gem as such, but for me, I played Warcraft 2 once or twice, and I never really understood... I knew Blizzard from maybe Diablo 1, but I didn't really understand that kind of... I hadn't had a PC before, Yeah. So this world to me was just absolutely phenomenal, but also, what's the point? But then I started doing these dungeons and heroics and raids, and before you know it, you're fighting this giant spider in Naxxramas with 39 other people, and they're all swearing at you because you're a rubbish healer. You're like, what do you think? I'm a tree that can dangle my little tendrils and heal you. What do you mean you're having a go at me? But the drama, the tension, it reminds me, and I'm going to mention it, but it reminds me of playing Sea of Thieves, but on a bigger scale. Sea of Thieves is full of aggro. Like, it is just knobhead the game, right? But playing like with 13 other people in a raid, it's nothing like I've ever played before or after. I've never played anything like it, and that for me that was a hidden gem. And,
fantastic.
Yeah, it is something that I
yourself,
still think about to this day.
Brilliant. So how about yourself, Andrew? Like, what comes to mind?
Well, I'm 36. So we share a kind of background, I suppose. Does anyone remember a shop called Special Reserve? Yeah. So I lived a really, really energetic 15-minute bicycle ride from one of those shops, right? And so this is back in the day, like Super Play magazine there was like one issue that was 6 months out of date in my post office in the village, and so like I don't know, I'd see some games and a lot of the big ones they'd just pass you by. It's not like today, you know, it was completely different. I'm sure a lot of people understand what I'm talking about. But so my punt was I literally went into Special Reserve. I'd saved up enough money for a game for my SNES, but I didn't know what to get, and it's like I just can't imagine not knowing what I'm gonna buy, right? And I asked the guy, one of the guys that worked there, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to." And I sort of went on it and browsed a bit, and then went back, and he's like, "Look, Secret of Mana's supposed to be pretty good."
Oh, okay.
And yeah, he was right. It was amazing. Yeah. But I wasn't aware of Squaresoft. I wasn't aware of, you know, Japanese RPGs versus Western RPGs or anything like that. Yeah. I think I had played a mate's copy of Zelda 3 once. Right. So it wasn't even like, oh, right, yeah, I get that it's the genre for me. Yeah. I was like, okay, cool. He works here. He knows.
That's it. And, or else you would have been in trouble and you'd been looking at things as literally box art and kind of just going, exactly. Looks pretty.
Yeah, and I mean, to my delight, it came with a world map printed out, and on the back of it, you got the amazing key art on it. And I've still got that at home in the loft.
Amazing.
And yeah, it meant a lot to me. Like, it's a game that means a lot to me. But that was just luck.
Oh, fantastic! So there's two big games that are kind of really well known, and but to you, that's what I like about it. Is the hidden gems to you, and it's a very personal sort of journey.
It's something I kind of miss about the current state of the industry. I don't necessarily think it was better, but I miss it. Is that idea of just genuinely going, I've never heard of this. Maybe I've obsessed over, or I've obsessed over a screenshot, and I've imagined what the game is in a magazine, but I've never, seen the Let's Plays and all the 80 reviews and all this kind of thing. I don't know what other people think really.
No, again.
And then it's all just brand new, right? Like you're saying, like the MMO stuff. It was brand new, and it's
so difficult to miss something now that there's so much social media and media pushes and stuff like that. I mean, I have the same thing as you. That again, it's another big game that everyone would probably know, but Metal Gear Solid. I saw a tiny pixelated screenshot of Metal Gear Solid with just a byline that just said, "A new stealth action game is coming out from Japan soon," and I think it was the description was you get to infiltrate a facility, and that was the one key line. I was like, that sounds really interesting to me. I want that, and then forgot about it for ages, and it popped up, and I just bought it sight unseen, knew nothing about it, put it in, and it's one of the best games I've ever played. And there's something special in that. There's something really special in just picking up something that you just don't, you know nothing about, and is incredible. I absolutely adore that.
Well, I guess a hidden gem nowadays would be kind of looking through Steam and just trying to cherry pick something that kind of looks interesting to you, because there's so much on there now, to the point where I don't really play on Steam anymore unless I've got a dedicated game that I know that I've already bought. Like, I just bought 2 Point Hospital because it's Theme Hospital too, basically. But I wouldn't have I can't imagine me ever like browsing through Steam and finding that, but then the hidden gem would be someone finding that by accident.
Exactly. There's such a breadth of choice now.
It's kind of
whereas everything was so much more limited to there was only there wasn't so many games being released.
Yeah, it's the new releases bit on Steam is just kind of like, how do you even release a game nowadays and get coverage? Whereas before, it was kind of
Andrew,
the inverse.
How do we release a game and get coverage?
I don't know. You just release a game on Steam, I guess. And
that's it, and you cross your fingers and hope. Yeah. I mean, that's just, that. From the outside looking in, you
shouldn't
feel
do
like
that. You shouldn't do that.
No. But
it
just feels crazy that
it is.
Sounds terrifying. To be honest,
it is, yeah.
I don't envy you.
Right, so moving on to your games, the games that you've brought on to talk to us about. I'm going to start with Darren.
Yeah.
What is the game that you've brought to talk about as your honourable mention?
Well, I wanted to bring it with me, but I thought the ego of that would just be ridiculous.
It's out there.
Is it?
It's out there on the show floor.
You could have brought it in.
You can actually, both the games that are being spoke to today are out in the retro area.
Oh, well, I'm going there after this then to get a good old Wheels of Steel mix up. Yeah, DJ Hero 2. I absolutely love DJ Hero 1. And it kind of came at the point of, we've got so many plastic instruments. I've got I've got Donkey Konga 3 Congo sets. I've
Yeah.
got Donkey Kong 1, 2, and Jungle Beat. I've got the Rock Band lot. I've got everything. Do I need more plastic guff in my house? Hold on, they're releasing one about DJs. I've always had this, as a massive Prodigy fan since I was like 13, I've always had this weird allure to be a DJ. But I've had a look at how they do it, and I just think, I can't be bothered. You know what I mean? Like, how do they like meet, mix and match and, beat match and all that? How do they do it? And my brother's had a go. He's better than me, my older brother. And he's like, yeah, do a bit of this and do a bit of that. And I've had a go on these virtual DJ things. I just think, I can't even work it out. So when Freestyle Games made DJ Hero 1, and they made it kind of accessible for anyone to be a DJ, I really got into it and just absolutely fell over head over heels for it. And then they released DJ Hero 2, which I think, how do you improve upon the first one, which they did, and kind of, they added so much to the mix, it was unbelievable. To the mix, pun. But like, they had the Prodigy on there, and that was it. Like, I was just absolutely obsessed with this one game. To the point where me and my brother had a deck each, and we were doing the DJ battles you can do on there, which are really good. Like, I don't know if anyone's played DJ Hero 2, but it's all about mixing music together, and you can crossfade between the 2 tracks. So you've got like Lady Gaga and Basement Jaxx, and Basement Jaxx in the 90s I quite liked. Lady Gaga, not for me, but when you put them together, there's something about the mixes that Freestyle Games have done that I just can't help but just like start getting into it. Like, I bought a table for it so I can have it raised up and I can stand there and mix in front of my telly. And my wife come in the other day and she was just like, "What are you doing?" Like, because I was proper getting into it. I was spinning it, and when I spin it, I do a spin around in my front room. I honestly kind of take on this this role of actually being a DJ, and I know I'm an absolute idiot for doing it. Yeah. But it's just that you don't really get that from a lot of games. Just that sheer joy of actually, literally playing a game, playing a game like on that.
See, like with me, I used to do a lot of DJing and stuff like that. You wouldn't know it from the way I did at the podcast, but but it's that feel that they seem to have nailed. And it's that thing that with Rock Band as well that you get, which is it's what you imagine DJing to be, and they transfer that through into the peripheral that you've got. And I just think the way that they've taken that and developed that to such a precise amount is incredible. And then to back that up with, so this is what I was going to ask you about as well. Like you were saying about tone, do you feel the tone worked? And you're saying there that it worked for you, that even though they were a mash-up of genres. Yeah. So for me, it always felt weird that that there was hip-hop and dance music, because I'd come from such a dance music background, but I love hip-hop, but having scratching in a dance tune. And it was so strange for me, but I always felt like it was this game is like a real time capsule of that weird craze in the kind of early 2000s, the early noughties, of that mashup culture. And I just absolutely adore it, just because, I've never wanted to play Rock Band. I've never wanted to play guitar. I've never held any kind of sway in wanting to be in a band or anything like that. But I've always wanted to be a DJ. I've always wanted to be behind the decks, fiddling and doing music engineering and stuff. And this was my way in. Whereas a lot of other, like the people here might have wanted to, they've I just want to strum away on a guitar, and those decks, they were the thing that brought me into music games and rhythm action games. And I don't know if that's the same for yourself.
Well, I've always loved the genre of like rhythm action kind of stuff, but it's just the actual tactile feel of the deck. Even though my deck ended up like breaking, I broke my first deck because I played it so much. So every time you've done the rewind, you earn like in Rock Band, you have like a star meter, a bar, and when it fills up, you tilt the guitar and you look like an idiot, but you get a little boost, and you feel invincible for the 30 seconds it's on. In DJ Hero, you got a thing where you can rewind and play part of the song again. And so what you want to kind of strategize, you want to pick a really kind of complicated part of the track to play again, so you get more points. Yeah. Like, and to the fact that I'm even like trying to like get the high scores and stuff, it's not really me, but like with this, when you spun it around,
you're strategizing.
Yeah, like you think about it. But I spun it around so much that it started malfunctioning and it started pressing buttons by itself, so it was ruining my high scores. So I was just absolutely gutted.
Yeah. We saw you in the Retro Asylum earlier. Oh, the buttons don't work.
Yeah, mate. You can always blame the hardware, can't you?
That's
an easy way out.
That's it.
But yeah, like, but then since playing DJ Hero 2, I have wanted to DJ, but it's just being bothered. You know what I mean? It looks like such hard work, and I just turn on DJ Hero 2 again, and I might only play it for half an hour here and there because I've got a little 2-year-old upstairs and I can't really go too crazy anymore.
Yeah.
But for that half an hour, it just kind of takes me away. And I've recently had that with Rocket League again, and I rarely do I smile when playing a game because I'm playing a game. Like I'm playing Far Cry 5, and that's doing its thing. I'm listening to a podcast playing Far Cry 5, but DJ Hero, man, like I am pushing that subwoofer up to as hard, not 4.
Is that because the playlist is so good, or because the game is so well made?
Listening to the soundtrack, I wouldn't listen to it on its own accord. Like all the artists, maybe individually. Like there's Noisia on there, there's Deadmau5, there's Prodigy, there's a bit of Chemical Brothers in there as well. They're artists that I like, and I listen to them like religiously. But when it comes to stuff like a lot of the hip hop stuff, like that's not necessarily my thing. But when you hear them like next to each other, like you do just get pulled into these tracks, and it has made me listen to the genre outside of the game as well. Yeah. So it's like. Suddenly I do appreciate a lot more genres because of it. And same with Rock Band, I would not have heard of a lot of those tracks if I hadn't played.
It's opened your ears to a lot more, experiences.
Absolutely,
and stuff. But do you ever feel you have more control in DJ Hero of the music and where the music goes than you would have in a Rock Band? Because with Rock Band, I feel like I'm just hitting notes as they come down the stream. Whereas with DJ Hero, I feel I'm more in control because you've got the effects and the kind of the scratching and that kind of stuff. Plus, it's also 3 buttons, so it's not 3 buttons actually. It's probably more than that if you're jumping around.
There's quite a bit going on.
There's quite a lot going on. It's quite complex, but I've always felt that I was more in control of the music. I didn't know if you
more so with 2 because there's so much to it. Yeah. So like in 2, you've got in the first one, you have a button that you can press and it plays a sample, and it's usually the and that's just really good. But in DJ Hero 2, you can kind of it samples the track. So when it's Firestar, because it's Firestar, it has Keith Flint button. So I'm pressing that, and it fits the track obviously because it's a sample from the track. But it makes you feel more immersed in the track as well. And it sounds really weird, but they've got the freestyle crossfader, which wasn't in the first one, and you can pick and choose a lane between, and it's hard to explain, but you got 3 bars going up, and when you can crossfade between the 3, it kind of shows you when the track is actually making noise, but without playing it. So if you flick it over to the left and you hit the fader to the left, it kind of plays that part of the tune, and then you see on the right hand side you can also freestyle mix this part of the tune, and you get into the rhythm of the track that you go right. Lady Gaga's going to say dance right then, so you go. Yeah. On the fire dance, so you can mix it all up yourself, and you do feel like you're actually influencing the song. Yeah. To the point of distraction, really, because if you're going for high scores and you're like, I can make this track sound even better.
Yeah, that's one thing I found is that if you're going for a score, or you're either going for a score or you're going for something that sounds good, and never the twain shall meet.
That's it. Yeah.
It sounds like weirdly ahead of its time in some ways. Like imagine it came out now with all the work that they did on, I forget which one actually survived, and they did all the live stuff with the video channels where you could watch other people.
Same studio, yeah.
Right. But why didn't they do that with something that was way more creative, performative? DJ Hero sounds like it would have been a really good fit for that, because you are actually creating different new mashups and tracks and stuff. Whereas Rock Band, you're just doing, at best, an exact copy, right?
That's it. And
it just seems odd.
I feel it was just a victim of the fact that EDM wasn't a big thing in the States, and everyone likes their rock music out in the States, and I think that obviously it was coming out of there. I think DJ Hero was more a response to bringing something out in Europe and the territories where dance music was far more influential, and I think because they've had their fingers burnt with DJ Hero because it came out at just the wrong time. I can't see them ever going back to that again.
That's a shame, because I'd watch you stream that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd watch myself.
Doing little pirouettes and stuff.
But then again, they've done it with what's the card game? Drop Mix.
Oh yeah,
Drop Mix. They're trying to do a similar thing with that, and the freestyling mode in that is very similar in that you're dropping cards down and building up sections and bass lines and that kind of stuff. So there's remnants still going in that. The problem with that game is that the game there is appalling and very convoluted, whereas the actual freestyle bit where you're just trying to make songs is really I just sit there all day just dropping cards on and just like see if I can get I don't know, it's all about the bass to mix with "I Will Survive" by Gloria Gaynor. It sounds appalling. Don't ever do that. But there you go.
Like with DJ Hero 2, they've added so much. Like they even added microphone support so you could sing along.
Yeah.
I don't think it worked because when you're mixing all these songs together and it's all the lyrics are literally chopping up and cut up and stuff, you can't sing along to that because you sound like you sound a bit.
But you can talk about the car that's parked outside that needs moving.
It's just like a bit weird. Like it's just absolutely crazy. Like but then they added the ability to mix in directions as well, so you can scratch forward and you scratch back, and you can kind of like freestyle scratch as well, so you can like warp the track as well.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of this kind of really help you feel more involved with the music, and I'm sure that's obviously entirely intentional from the devs.
Yeah.
But imagine slapping on a VR headset and playing DJ Hero VR. Like you could use the two controllers, the touch controllers, as your virtual decks.
I mean, you're stuck in a central point, not moving, looking around an audience.
You could see the crowd out in front of you, and you could pretend you're dead mouse for 5 minutes. Like how good would that be?
Just
VR?
seeing the inside of a papier-mâché head, that'd be great.
But I think there's a lot of room for DJ Hero now because you don't necessarily have to buy, like I say, a deck anymore. You can probably have these Move controllers or VR. Vive touch controllers and stuff, they could kind of do the work for you.
You could run it on an iPad. You could have two.
Well, yeah,
and faders on an iPad or something
just
like that.
like a real DJ.
There you go.
Hey,
there you go. Exactly.
USB
No, but
Hero.
it's funny because like so many devs fall over themselves now to make like performative aspects of their games because Twitch and all the other streaming is so popular, and that's just the whole thing sounds like it's just perfect.
Yeah,
I feel like we should all shut up and go make it.
Fine, let's do it.
I've seen quite a few music making games or software games on VR, and they look amazing. Like Giant Bomb were doing one where you could like put a speaker up here and enlarge it and put a symbol over there and do this and link it all together. And you just think there's room there once they've actually cracked the VR nut that Ubisoft, Lemons and Spark, because it's not Freestyle Games anymore, is it?
Yeah.
They've been Ubisofted, which is fair enough.
Ubisofted.
Might as well get a job than not. Do you know what I mean? Like, hopefully Ubisoft can pull that series back out and do something with it because they've got. Ubisoft Rocksmith. Rocksmith's Ubisoft, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe there's DJ Smith or something. I just want another DJ Hero is what I'm trying to say. And you bringing me on here to talk about it got me to taking the deck out again and spinning it up. And it's just such a thrill. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even though it doesn't look great on a 4K telly anymore, but it doesn't matter, does it? Like, no. It's
all about the sound. That's the best bit of it.
Absolutely. Immense.
So the burning question I have for you, which I'm guaranteed you're going to say yes. Have you ever been tempted to use the DJ Hero decks to play another game, like Dark Souls or?
No, honestly, I really haven't. And that's
You've let me down.
No, that's because I've seen people do that you see like a Eurogamer thing go up like, oh, someone's played Donkey Kong with, or someone played Dark Souls with Donkey Konga bongos, and you just think, I can't top that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and someone's beaten Dark Souls with this, someone's played Crazy Taxi with a dance mat or something like that. Because like. If I'm going to do something, I really want to, I will actually go for it. But I've never really, with that DJ Hero, I don't know. I want to do it now that you've mentioned it. But like,
that's it. I can see you in Sea of Thieves just like turning the wheel with the deck and the buttons.
No, but whenever I get that deck out, it's purely for DJ Hero. And I've never really thought of it as an external peripheral, really, because they're so linked in my mind as they are one and the same.
It's directly linked to that.
It's the same with the Rock Band stuff as well. Like, I've never tried the guitar, even though I've seen it on articles before that someone has completed games with a guitar or drums or something. I've never really gone that extra step and done it. You know? Yeah. There you go. Interesting. Though. I'll let you know next week.
Cheers, mate. Yeah. Let me know how it goes. Right. So that's your game, Andrew. You caused me issues.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
so
all right.
I kind of focused on the the game that would fall outside of your top 10 angle of it rather than the hidden gem, just to prepare people. So, my choice is GoldenEye 64.
Never heard of it.
Which, no one's ever heard of. Exactly. I was like, oh no, hang on, I might have misjudged this entirely. But I kind of wanted to, I'm argumentative is probably the right word. I don't know, confrontational. I don't know. I wanted to kind of, most people are going to think that it is absolutely an all-time classic.
This is my first question. Yeah. Are you sure we're talking about GoldenEye 64 and not the Wii remake? That's a terrible Wii remake.
We could
with Daniel Craig.
Yeah, we could,
don't.
but no, we're not.
No,
we are talking about the original.
Okay, fair enough. So, what is it about this game that makes it fall just outside the top 10? because this is, like you say, this could be a stone cold classic for most of the people in this audience. For Mr. Rare over there.
Yeah,
well, exactly.
GoldenEye 64 was the reason, alongside Perfect Dark, that I got into QA at Rare. You know what I mean? So that game was influential beyond.
Tick that off your list. It's on your bingo.
Mentioned Rare.
Darren's Rare.
I used to work there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, so I mean, that's the kind of what I want to challenge, because my assumption, I was really thinking, I was like, I've got a whole bunch of games I could talk about that like fit maybe a bit more classically.
Which were
like Guardian Heroes on the Saturn. I was tempted about Secret of Mana, but then Kane and Rince did. It's been a hot topic, so I was like, no, not that one. Wave Race 64, I thought might qualify as well.
Yeah. I was really hoping you picked that one.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's fine.
I'll come back and do that one as well.
It's great.
But GoldenEye for me, it's like I was questioning what is my like top 10, top 20-ish, and what is the point at which I drop one out? And and I was like, hang on, GoldenEye, no, like it's so the main reason is actually it's time, and I don't necessarily mean like its age. It was actually the timing of the release, right? So it means so much in terms of console gaming, console FPS gaming in particular.
Yeah, there's no Halo without GoldenEye 64.
Yeah, and it popularized quite a lot of mechanics and elements of games that were you're just starting to see in like System Shock and stuff on the PC, like the way they constructed the levels, things like that, the mission structure. But then Perfect Dark came out and did it all basically better, essentially, right? And then Halo and COD just like made it irrelevant. Yeah. Now they wouldn't have been able to do that without GoldenEye, but it does mean that it just can't.
It's those important baby steps. It's a really weird period in early 3D games where, like, sort of Mario 64 and that kind of stuff, where everyone was fighting to work out what the controls in a 3D environment were for different genres. And GoldenEye is a perfect example of that, where they just didn't know how to control a person walking around in first person.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a product of the controller, right? That weird N64 controller, which I love dearly. I really do.
Well, this is the thing. There's another question I've got here, is that do you think it was held back by the controller and the hardware?
I actually think that without the controller, it wouldn't have been as good as it was. But I actually don't think the controls make it better.
No.
It's weird. Like, so Donkey Konga, you brought up, and the bongos, they're Jungle Beat. Particularly is like they've done a really interesting job of making a great. That's the platformer one, right? I get them mixed up. A great platformer that is great because of its weird controls, right? And you couldn't really apply them to other games. You can, sure, and stream it, whatever. But that's an example of like exemplary design in that sense. Okay. Whereas the best you can hope with GoldenEye is that you go back to it, or even back then, there were decisions made, the auto aim and things like that made it better to control with the scheme that it had, but it was still limited a little bit. It wasn't held back from greatness, but it's not like any single element of it was like, oh, that's why this game's great. It's like it's actually they've just done a really smart job and smart decisions around its limitations, right? Does that?
That makes total sense. Yeah, it makes total sense.
And part of that was down to obviously the analog stick. Not a lot of people knew what they were doing with those, but they sensibly tied it to movement and. That's they removed jump from the equation, and a lot of PC gamers really hate that about it, because at the time, was it 97?
Yeah, it was jump strafing.
It was jump strafing, arcadey stuff, and that's great too. But this was like really, really different. This game predated Half-Life, which a lot of people
totally
don't realise or forget, and it's world building as well, right?
That's it.
So they actually built like essentially sets, proper
movie
real
sets.
world.
From
like,
what? Yeah, I was going to say. Apparently, they went out to the actual movie sets themselves, and actually parts of it are camera angles from the movies and stuff as well.
Yeah. And they got all this data. Like, it was one of the first like big shares of useful information from the movie.
Crossed from the movie.
Because the hardware, like you're saying, did it affect it? Yeah, they were able to actually like use that information on previous stuff, 2D, 16-bit. It's like you're not going to scan a texture in from RoboCop's helmet and actually see any result.
Take a photo and then remake it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's fantastic. So what other things in the design sort of inspire you as a game dev? Like,
how long have we got?
We've got time, trust me.
I think the things that most people call out are really interesting, like the mission structure, right? So if you do it on the easiest mode, it's the same level, same bad guys. There's no increase in health bars or anything like that as you go through the difficulty levels. You just get additional objectives that make your job harder, and that's like amazing, right? So System Shock, etc. I forget the name of that sort of subgenre. You got like Dishonored and Deus Ex, like that's kind of had a bumpy history, but at least on PC that was represented really well. On console, that had never been done, and it was like years. Like there was that in Perfect Dark, and then nothing for years, right? And maybe that was
you had a bit of Time Splitters as well in number 2.
That's true. No, fair point. Yeah.
David Turner's, as you know, that was his honourable mention. So
fair enough. Mine's more honourable, right?
Because it came first.
But yeah, I mean that's incredible, and it works on so many levels, right? Obviously, there's new challenge, that's cool. It almost feels like new content if you weren't like aware at the time. You're like, oh my god, there's new things to do.
That's because doors unlocked. Like in Facility, you'd have like meet Dr. Doak, meet Trevelyan, blow things out. But on Double O Agent, you'd have all these extra rooms that were locked before, and you had to like meet Dr. Doak in the gas cylinders and make sure you don't create a leak because then you get locked in. There was just so much stuff going on that you wouldn't have even seen if you just went through an agent, and it literally unlocks more stuff than like the more you play.
It's constantly giving. Yeah.
And they even made it so that it wasn't like some of it was locked, but not all. It wasn't all just like you're not allowed in here because you're not on the right mode. Yeah. Some locked doors you could open by shooting with a loud gun, and the guards inside would react. They programmed them to do that, so they do, and they open it. And as long as you get in quick enough, and sometimes that would break the level, you're stuck, right? But it's like that's amazing. You felt really in that world, and I think
that's it. There's definitely a certain tone, a certain feel to that game.
It's like a roguelike. Each level for me in GoldenEye is like, right, we're going from A to Z in this one level, and if you make it to the end, brilliant. If you don't, you're back at the start. And it's kind of like it doesn't care really that you're good at the game or not, and it kind of plays on a lot of tropes that games have now in that. It's just really hard. It doesn't care that it's really hard. Sure, the frame rate's holding you back because it's like 10 frames a second. The best. And the controls are a little bit wonky if you're playing on like 1.1, but if you're playing 1.2, which is like Turok controls, and you've got a bit more movement. But yeah, like the game doesn't really hold your hand at all. Like if you know where to go for, say, control, right? Yeah. That's a ridiculous level. You have to get out of the jail by using your watch to get the key off, or you can like I think you can like there are ways of glitching out of that jail and stuff like that. But like. The game doesn't really tell you anything. It's just it's just like go for it.
I was playing it for research, obviously. Yeah. It's astonishing. Like I always remember the one thing that I do remember was the first level down, and you come up against a locked gate. And you're like, well, I don't know, I must have missed something. I'll go back and find the key. Yeah. Where's the glowing red key on the floor? It's like it doesn't exist. You shoot the lock off.
That's it.
And that was the moment where you're like, oh my god.
But it's not like a bright yellow lock like in Far Cry 5.
It's just there.
It's just grey, and it's just on a grey fence. With grey background,
and it looks like it just looks like a texture.
Exactly.
Part of the world,
exactly. But then you get as far as like silo or whatever, the missile silos, and you've got a time limit. And you're like, what? Sorry, you haven't got time to be like scrubbing around the levels for stuff. And it's like collect this, like circuit boards and stuff. They're just on shelves. They're not. There's no shiny thing drawing your eye to it. They're just there. You have to be like looking around. And I think some of the scientists drop key cards, otherwise you're locked. Like they'll do it as soon as you shoot near them. So it happens all the time. But again, it's just on the floor, and it might. I mean, okay, maybe it's the resolution of the N64, but sometimes it looks like a bullet hole or whatever. But it's there, and you run over and you pick it up. You're like, oh, of course,
That's it.
And they put gadgets in your inventory, and they don't tell you, which is slightly annoying. But again, it's that lack of hand-holding, which, especially on a Nintendo console,
I was going to say,
what the hell is that
way
all
back
about?
then,
And you think like 97, like the N64 wasn't really known for its graphical kind of like a lot of games look really fuzzy and a bit kind of it wasn't known for doing realistic locations very well. But GoldenEye in that 97, man, I'd never seen anything like it. I remember walking into he's like now my best mate of all time, but I remember bumping into him in a game shop and he was playing Train, and I was like, what is this? And he was playing Train on Double O Agent. He's Scottish, so he's angry, and he's playing Double O Agent, so he's even angrier. I was like, what are you playing, mate? He's like, GoldenEye. I was like, okay. And he's like, what about it? I was like, is it any good? Yeah, it's great. And he just carried on. I was like, okay, I'll just leave it be. And then it turns out, they're like best mates and that. But like seeing, I never seen like a train represented on the N64 or in any game like that before. Like it just seemed to go on forever, and like the guards were like poking out behind boxes and stuff. And I just honestly, absolutely
the idea as well that taking a corridor shooter and literally having a corridor and that's it. There's nothing else you can do. But still making that still making that exciting and still having interest come out of that whole level. It's just just phenomenal,
Absolutely.
And we haven't even talked about the multiplayer at all. The multiplayer was basically built in 6 weeks by one guy.
Yeah, that's it. Behind management's back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To do it.
And that's probably what most people actually, when they think about GoldenEye, go to first.
Yeah.
Because it's their...
Absolutely.
I remember coming home from the club.
That's the bit that's aged the worst.
The worst.
And is actually, like, there's like little bits in the single player that are like, oh, I pick on that, or that's good or bad or whatever, but the multiplayer in GoldenEye, I'd argue, is actually like borderline bad. I think it's good despite itself.
Yeah,
it's fun despite itself, I should say. The frame rate, obviously, the level design is like incredibly dull and whatnot and rote. You can learn the spawn patterns and annihilate everyone.
But it's not too dissimilar to Quake in that respect. Like
that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's probably a bit unfair of me.
I played so much multiplayer that to the point where if I was in a room on facility or whatever level, I knew that someone would spawn. He's dead. I'm in this room over here. He's going to spawn on the balcony, and you just run there and ping him off. He just died on the balcony, so I'm here. He's going to spawn over there. You could, I thought I was a genius, but it just turns out it's just not a very well-made mode, is it? It's just really predictable.
Not really. And then of course, Odd Job, right?
That's it.
Yeah,
and breaks everything.
Yeah.
And don't forget remote mines through the wall. The flames just tickle you through the wall, and you die. And you're like, well, this isn't a game. This is like a circus. But there's just something about it that just kind of, we hadn't really played. Well, I hadn't really played many first-person shooters. No. But 4 of you around the same screen, to the point where we made a cardboard divider to stop you from screen cheating. You know what I mean?
That classic photo from the 90s.
Yeah, we did it, man. It was,
many arguments about you're cheating. I'm not. All that stuff. It's allowed. The game allows it. It's allowed.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So that's a great game, and I absolutely love it. So, I want to ask you both though about both your games. Do you think the audience here, someone should go back to your game and play it now? I'll start with you, Darren.
We did GoldenEye on Cane and Rinse 100, was it? And I said no. I love GoldenEye. It's my favourite game of all time. But I don't think, unless you go in with the mindset of, I know what to expect, like it is 10 frames a second and it's got so many weird game design caveats. You've got to know what to expect with GoldenEye. It doesn't care if you're good at it or not. It doesn't really like you, so to speak, and you will get gunned down. It hasn't got glowing guns on the floor showing you where to go. There's no the objectives are you have to pause your watch, and in that duration you could get shot by a guard. Do you know what I mean? It's got so many unfriendly things about it that I don't think it's a great game to play now, and I don't think it's, I don't know.
It's of its time.
It's of its time.
It's like Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah.
You go back to that is such an important game, but actually if you go back to play that now, it's unplayable.
And I only say no because Perfect Dark's available on Rare Replay, and that's got a smooth frame rate, and it does the same stuff. Perfect Dark tails off at the end when the aliens get involved, but before that, when you're running around Datadyne and Carrington Institute and all that, it does it better, and there's more to it. And you're not James Bond, but you're Joanna Dark, and that's fine. You know what I mean? And, but I just think GoldenEye.
Perfect Dark seemed to have learned a lot of lessons from the development of GoldenEye, because I think the development of GoldenEye was quite rushed as well. So
absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to take away yours.
Right.
No. It made me, it gave me some thinking time. Like I think I was expecting to say no, but I don't know. I think maybe yes, just to
balance it out.
Just because I think
consensus.
Like you are right, but I think that maybe there is enough in there that is. Like, okay, if you're in this audience, yes. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
if you're listening to this because you're interested in this kind of element of games and their history and stuff, then you probably would get something out of it. Especially because looking at it now compared to how, Dark Souls,
as a historical piece
have made as a historical piece, but also like the difficulty, the unfriendliness, right? There's still fun to be had, and it's just interesting to see a relic that had done a lot of that, and then somehow that got skipped and didn't follow through with Halo and COD and that, and then we're sort of gone back to it again.
Yeah.
But everyone forgets that it was even in there in the first place because so much of it was just so brand new, couch multiplayer, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That some of the subtleties of the design and the things that are good about it sort of got glossed over. We didn't know how advanced it was, I suppose.
It was ahead of its time.
But it's not that fun
surpassed.
if you're just after a good, first-person shooter.
Yeah, exactly. And what about DJ Hero? Like, we were saying, is it a good group game? Is it a good group game? Is it a good game that you can play?
Yeah. I mean, I've had good times with it in a party experience. I used to host quite a few hosts. I used to have a few game nights around my house. Like, we used to play Spin the Bottle Bumpy's Pie. That's a good game. That's an honourable mention. I'm going to throw a few out there. That's a really good game if you want to be stupid. We played the Burnout Paradise party mode where you have to take turns to flip your car and stuff. That's really good as well for party stuff. But DJ Hero, when you pop it on, it's kind of for that. You have it for that moment when people like me want to carry on playing games, but there's a lot of people in the house party environment that don't. But when you put it on, it creates a very kind of relaxed experience for a lot of people around you.
Yeah.
But then you got me and my brother and the other kind of more gamer types that just want to carry on playing, and it creates music for people around you.
It's the acceptable game for people who don't play games.
Absolutely, yeah.
At a party
Yeah,
when you're tucked away in a corner scratching.
Oh. But like, I absolutely love DJ Hero 2. I think if you want to go back and play a game that involves you manhandling a plastic instrument, then absolutely.
That's the one to go for.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm all about that. It's on the show floor, you say?
That's it.
Yeah. Let's go, me and you.
The over
Two players.
18s area. So, the last question that I always ask everyone, and it's a cheap way of me basically trying to find guests for the show. Who would you most like to hear talk about their honourable mention? It can be anyone, inside, outside the game industry.
I'll stay on topic. Martin Hollis, the designer of GoldenEye. I've had the absolute pleasure and honour of meeting him a couple of times. He's like this crazy, mad, genius, brilliant designer. He thinks about games in a way that very few people do that I've met, and I think he'd just be like, that would be like nobody's heard of it. Like proper real insight.
It'll be a bit like, again, we've got Chris O'Regan in the audience. He dropped a game on me that was so out there that I couldn't even research it, and it was incredible as well. So yeah. There's a game called Tau Ceti on the Spectrum. Thank you. That's the face I pulled.
What did you say?
Tau Ceti.
Towel?
Tauceti.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I thought it's to do with towels and like flossing and all that. I don't know.
No. That would be great. But no. Incredible, like sort of open world space game by the sounds of it. Brilliant.
Only Chris O'Regan, eh?
Exactly. So, how about yourself, Darren? Who would you pick to listen to them talk about their honourable mention? We've already had James from the Cane and Rinse, and we've also had Leon on. So you can't pick anyone.
I don't want to hear them. I've had enough.
Don't pick your stable mate. It's got to be someone out there.
I don't know. It's such a massive question, isn't it? Really, like that. I'd like to hear so many people talk about their hidden gems, but I honestly couldn't tell you, mate. No? To be honest, I don't know.
No, honestly, sort of Miyamoto or
well, but
then
they're the obvious answers, isn't it? Like, I kind of want to delve into the minds of people that I kind of don't really know, if you know what I mean. So, like the kind of the brilliant thing with your podcast is that you pull people in that I wouldn't normally pull in, Yeah. So, I mean,
what about the guy that made Tau Ceti? Like,
exactly.
Obviously. And that's kind of the good thing about your show is that you're doing something that I would never even thought of, and you've made a show out of it and it works. And
thank you.
And the reason why I can't think of anyone because I'm rubbish at spontaneous questions, but also
great.
like it's just like I'm looking forward to see who you pull out the hat, so to speak. I know I'm kind of jumping the shot with this answer, but like you're doing this show because you do it. You do it great, and like you're pulling names out the hat that I think are genuinely interesting.
Well, are you a tenner now, mate? So that's very kind of you. Very kind of you. Right, so we've got 5 minutes left. So my glamorous assistant, Mr. Hamer, we're going to put out to the audience. I would like to know what would be the games that you would consider your honourable mention that don't hit the top 10, your top 10. So if you want to put your hand up, Mark will come over and kind of any takers, anyone at all. Matt.
No one has played more than 9 games. That's what it is.
The guy in the red shirt there, Mr. Mark.
Thank you. Hi, it's De Blob.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good game.
It's a good game. It's got that interesting music mechanic, but shake to jump.
Okay, yeah. The curse of the Wii.
Curse of the Wii really spoils it. But it's so much fun up to a point until it gets slightly too complex, and the hardware just can't pull it off.
Fantastic. That's a great pick. I'm gonna have to pick that up.
I think that's spot on because I played the Blob and I literally got to a point where it was just too much of a struggle, so I gave up. But I really enjoyed the few hours I had with it. Yeah, no, good choice.
Fantastic. Right, anyone else?
Got one right here.
Hello.
Right, Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Again, you're going down the Andrew route.
Yeah. My eyebrow doesn't go high enough.
Yeah. It was great, especially for the village and the mansion. But as soon as you get to the island, it really falls apart for me.
Okay.
And
gets too strange and weird at the end. That's the kind of voice.
Really annoying with those big parasite things which keep generating. It's the controls which mainly hit it, and it's a bit too open in the island. It kept itself narrow in the villages and the mansion, but the opening in the island is what pulled it down a bit for me.
Okay, fantastic.
The thing about 4 was that the Wii version, weirdly, was the best one. I think in terms of the controls, it just absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
And I as a developer, I should probably just do it myself. But I'm just so surprised that no one else just copied that because that was in the era of third-person action games being the genre.
Yeah, that's it.
And it absolutely nailed it. And nobody,
I
can't think of another game that controls like that. It's just balmy. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, thank you.
Hi there. One that holds a special place in my heart for some reason, and I can't explain why, is
that's a perfect reason for coming on.
Is Team Buddies. On the PlayStation 1. I don't know why.
Man,
I just
I've
found
played
it.
that for years.
I actually just found it hilarious.
That's the reaction I want.
Team Buddies.
It's another one they've made up. What?
Yeah, exactly.
Explain. You were like weird pill-looking things with hands, and
like
you all had
Weeble
Cockney
kind of
accents, and you kind of half swore all the time, and you'd collect all these little boxes that land in the middle, take them back to your base. You could make tanks and guns, and you'd have to shoot some other team players that were.
You've tickled a part of my brain that hasn't been tickled for ages. Team Buddies. I used to work in an indie game shop in town, and I used to just play all the games, like all the games on the shelf, and that was just one that I was just like, what is going on here?
I had no idea where it came from. It's so obscure.
Yeah,
fantastic. That's exactly the kind of game I would like to hear about. So. That is it. Thank you so much for joining us on the show and telling the crowd about your honourable mention game. I'm terrible at wrapping up podcasts. I don't know if you noticed. Thank you so much. Can you give a big round of applause to Andrew and Darren for carrying me through this? Thank you. If you'd like to listen to Honourable Mentions, it is on iTunes. It's also on Twitter on Just Off the List. So if you want to get in contact with us there and let us know how you enjoyed the show, then please do. And have a great EGX. Enjoy.